guys introduce this young lady in the center?
Would you like to go first?
No.
Okay. This is our sister JoAnne. It's spelled capital J-O, capital A-N-N-E. It's 2 words. What else? That's about it. Okay. No. She's in the middle. And we're actually sitting
I'm the second born with the messed up attitude.
left to right in birth
And I'm the
order.
firstborn with the messed up attitude.
Okay. Celeste,
Yes.
JoAnne, and Carol.
Yes.
And JoAnne is she's the brains. She is. She's the brain. She's like the brain.
Who walks around.
I-
She's a big brain.
No, that's Valley Girl. She's not like the brain. She is the brain.
Yeah.
She's the heart.
I am.
Yeah, she's the heart, right? And what was the other one? What was I supposed to be?
The biatch.
Oh yeah, the biatch. I'm not even in charge.
I remember JoAnne always getting into trouble because she slept all the time. She was the one who would take a nap at a drop of a hat, and my mother would get upset, and she would say, the phrase I remember the most is, "You need to get up. You walk like you got dead lice falling off of you." We got
I
that
don't know
one.
how she comes with that.
I don't understand how, but yeah, Mom, when she was upset. It's because JoAnne would be curled up sleeping somewhere.
She was growing those brains. You got to
Yeah, I
sleep
think
for
that's what
that.
it was, growing the brains. And I was out running around beating up dudes, so.
That's right.
Got the muscle.
Yeah.
And you,
Carol was being the baby sister.
Yeah.
oh gosh, I don't.
JoAnne is the lovely maiden who invented the Sisterlocks system, and Celeste and I, in our sisterly, lovingly way, helped her grow the business, and that's the real story. Around 1992, getting into 1993 when we made it official. We were at some kind of a fair down in South Bay, and you and I were walking around, and you had already put them in your hair. And people were starting to stop you and say, "Oh, what is that? What is that?" And it was just, I never experienced anything like
To
it.
describe it. That's why I don't appreciate, and it's not negative, but I just don't like to hear people say that they're doing it in style. Okay, and I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but has anyone ever told you how creative you are being with Sisterlocks? You're making these relatively small locks so that your ladies can style their hair anytime. If I'm getting married and I've got Sisterlocks, I want to see a style that represents me. I don't want people just to see locks on my head. So I think of an establishment. I don't think of install, because that's installing a refrigerator, installing a motor, installing, that's what you're installing. This is a beautiful woman with beautiful hair, no matter how long, and she's gonna come out looking like a queen. And it's your queen that you helped to manufacture, to make. So you help to establish that beauty. And it's inside as well as out, and they feel it more when you feel it. And so, I could go on and on. That's how I feel about the whole process. And we have to appreciate each other as Black women, women of color, because we're beautiful. And I'm tired of everybody else in the world taking what we have and our beauty and then using it, claiming it, and pushing us to the side.
Well, they can't take this.
No, they can't. No.
Because
We won't
it's not
know.
like that. It responds to what your actual natural hair loves to do.
Right.
So it's customized to African textured hair or tightly textured hair. And
And are we bragging? Yes.
yeah, we're bragging.
Carol,
Yes.
how do you feel about Sisterlocks?
Sisterlocks is, I'm sorry I'm taking so long because I'm sure that my feelings about it I have mainly because I was there at the very beginning. So I'm trying to imagine how someone else might feel, but when someone asks me how I feel about them, I've had them for so long and they've been in my life for so long. It's just a natural part of me. They're a natural part of my image. Years ago when my hair was much longer, that was kind of one look I had, and now I have something different. But it's it's the same, but it's different. You know, I still have the Sisterlocks. But as I listen to other women, when they talk about, when they rave about them and they talk about how big they are, I have to stop and remind myself that it's not just us anymore, and it hasn't been us for a long time. And so I have to remind myself that they are worldwide, and people seem to just, that I think they're getting so ubiquitous that people don't even mention them anymore. When the Supreme Court, latest Supreme Court justice was being sworn in, and I'm looking at those glorious locks. I've never seen her go in front of a camera and say, "These are Sisterlocks," but she doesn't have to. That's how deeply ingrained they're becoming in our culture, and the African American culture especially. And that it's such a wonderful thing, but it also pulls everyone farther away from the origin, which I suppose is why we're doing this right now. There are people who don't even know that the reason Sisterlocks is named Sisterlocks is because it was invented by one person who involved her sisters in developing the business. We're the sisters of Sisterlocks. Duh.
Where's that mic?
Yeah. So we just are. And so I guess I think of them in a more of a global way. I don't think about my hair. Oh, I got Sisterlocks. I don't think about them that way. It's just my hair. But there's a lot that went into making my hair the way it looks. You know, it's kind of second nature.
Yeah.
So long answer, but
I have a memory. I don't know if it's something I made up, but you know how we used to literally sit around that kitchen table and talk about things and decide things and take minutes and type them up, and you know. And when it came to the name, I seem to remember us saying, "Okay, well, next time we meet, just think about it. Next time we meet, let's just see what we all come up with." Did that happen? Because I know one person was the secretary in the Africana Studies Department at San Diego State. I asked her too. I said, just come up with what you think it should be called. And my memory is that everybody came up with Sisterlocks, the word Sisterlocks.
no, I came up with Sisterlocks.
I didn't come up with Sisterlocks. It was already determined by the time it sunk in
Okay.
for me. And
Well, I know that Cassandra wasn't among our discussion group, and she came up with that too.
Yeah, it's the only thing that made sense.
Yeah.
It didn't make me smart. It's just that, yeah, it's the only thing that made sense.
Yeah.
They're sisters and they're locks
Yeah.
and Sisterlocks. But we did what's the word, copyright or trademark?
Yeah, we
every single iteration and every spelling or whatever. So
remember that.
Yeah. But yeah.
And that's
it was just a
thanks to
natural.
you. She's the one who can deal with agencies and forms and requirements and all of that. Thank goodness.
International.
It's like we're three parts of one brain, you know. Celeste, it's got to feel right, or it can't happen. It can't be called Sisterlocks because, you know, it's this precious thing that she's got her heart and soul into. You know, I'm going to figure out the curriculum and the testing protocols, you know. And Carol is going to deal with whatever bureaucracy or requirements or whatever. You know, I think it's a good thing. I think that we've gotten as far as we have because we've worked together.
Yes. We're going to be inviting a few more of the countries on the African continent to join our little club and get a trademark.
Is that what you're working on next?
Yes.
Hey, now.
So where do we have the trademark so far?
The EU,
The EU.
Canada,
Mhm.
Jamaica, Kenya, and I think South Africa, but I'm not sure.
Not sure.
Check that.
All right. As we have communities of Sisterlocks practitioners coming up, then we'll focus on that particular place.
Right.
What about, because the UK was in the European Union when we got the trademark.
That's right, and now they're out.
So I don't know how that works.
I thought about that, and I'll have to look into it because, from what I understand, they're having so many problems and issues. I'm not even sure that they would know who I should go to.
Yes. What is the importance of the trademark agreement?
You're talking about the form that we have everybody sign. What's important about that?
I think one of the things that's important is that it draws people to the fact that this is, can I use swear words?
No.
Oh, damn.
It just lets people know
Anyway,
that
we're serious about this. This is not a neighborhood thing. This is the real thing. You think about a business, you have to do everything within that business to make it viable. Okay? It's not your sister around the corner who, you sign this paper, everything's cool, but then it goes nowhere. This is something that we do focus on. We do ask that people read it and understand, and there's always somebody who's going to break an agreement. However, what they don't know is that we don't take that seriously.
lightly.
Yes, I mean lightly. We take it very seriously, and we do respond. Depends on what kind of time we have, and how serious the, what would you call it?
Sort of infraction, you mean?
Yeah.
Something like that.
The infraction is. Because whenever you ignore or try to belittle something that you, as a black person, have done, you affect everybody else on the planet who is also a person of color and a black person. And you may think it doesn't affect them. You may think you're being slick, you're getting away with something, until you get that piece of paper from the attorney, signed by Dr. Cornwell, saying you have been summoned or you need to stop doing X, Y, and Z. It's no joke.
Yeah, it's true that we obviously can't run after everybody.
Right.
And it's not really, that's not really what we want. It's not so that we can target people. It's about intellectual property, and the whole concept that if someone comes up with something, they have the right to trade on that, and everybody else doesn't. Right. So it's actually a protection, so that that Sisterlocks is a real thing, and you can't just throw the word around or call yourself or your establishment or whatever using the Sisterlocks term, because it's a misrepresentation, and that means that customers can get defrauded.
Right.
That means that it waters down what Sisterlocks really are and puts us in competition with people who are pretending but know good and well that they're not Sisterlocks. So it has to do with being able to assure people who want to take our courses, who want to move up in our organization, that we stand on something that is legally binding and that can help protect them when it comes to when it comes to developing their businesses. So.
I mean, you wouldn't think of going into the entertainment business and calling yourself Beyonce. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
There's only one Beyonce.
That's right.
There might be someone else who has that very unusual name, but it's like there's only one Sisterlocks.
Yeah.
How hard is that to understand? And because we're so lovely and friendly, you think you can mess with us, but you can't mess with us.
You see what I mean? You can't take her nowhere.
But we are friendly.
We're very friendly, but we don't take no BS.
Yeah. So, and this is on behalf of all of the people, the 99.9% of our people who want something legit. They want it done right.
Yeah.
They don't want somebody behind their back selling something else are women, mostly women. They take this so seriously. They spend their hard-earned money to learn this technique and start their businesses. There's sisters out there whose credit cards are melted in a corner somewhere. This is serious for them.
Yeah.
And the very, very few people who just think that they can tie people's hair into knots and call it Sisterlocks, that's not cool.
We have ladies who have babies and they're able to stay home. They're able to take care of their families, financially. They can really, really change their lives. Yeah. And this is something that we appreciate because it's helped us to do the same thing.
Right.
So it's very important, and it just hurts that I had a hard time originally. I'm still having a hard time, but it hurts me when I see black women pissing on other black women. I'll calm down.
That's the beat. You got the, where the beat button is. Okay.
Okay. But that's how I feel. I just feel that you can't.
It's not right.
It is
It's
not right. Down
It's
in your
not
heart, you know you are wrong.
And the visceral reaction, if the bigger context is that we support women, our women, and Sisterlocks is a testimony to, it's an amazing tool and resource. I mean, we have a track record of people, quitting their day jobs and, buying that car instead of taking a bus, and putting their kids through school, all because of what Sisterlocks has afforded them.
Right.
That is the reward for us.
Right.
Really, is the level of success that we've had in empowering and helping to empower our women. Because we are really something. We really are. I can remember being, maybe about that big, and on Monte Vista, to some sisters, somebody's older cousin and her friends or something, so I had to look up at them. And I don't know what they were talking about, but they were so beautiful. And I don't mean, somebody else's hair and trying to be, they were just in nature and in reality, in 3D. They were stunning, the way the sun hit their skin and the way their voices sounded. And when they laughed, you just...
Part of it is the way we were raised, the time period in history when we were raised, people's attitudes, and the neighborhood that we grew up in. I'm sure there were a lot of neighborhoods like that where it was kind of a working class black neighborhood, but the dads would go to work and come home. The moms were at home. Sometimes they'd be an Avon lady like our mom, something like that. And there were tons of kids, and we were just friends with each other. We played together. We walked down to the rec center and go swimming together. We'd all go to the movies together. And,
we watch out for each other.
Yeah, we watched out for each other.
I can hear my mom's voice. You all hold hands now,
Yeah,
or you all go together now. That's what you did.
Mhm.
You didn't just go on your own little path.
And if you ran out of bus fare or you wanted to save it and you were walking home from somewhere and somebody's mom or dad was coming by, they'd pull over and pile in. They'd take all the kids home. Okay, JoAnne, I got them. Okay, thanks, Joe. It was a community. It was a little, dare I use the word village? It was.
Yes.
It really was. And the education the public school education that we had was very similar. There was a lot of community, a lot of doing a lot of things together. And so we were just raised like that without thinking about it. And so part of I think what you were expressing is that in all of that, you get to know other kids and admire them for whatever qualities that they had. There wasn't, we weren't at each other's throats and necks and, and competing with each other.
Right, and listening to any outside voices that were telling us that we weren't good enough, we weren't lovely, smart, excited about life and all of that. You don't need money for that.
No.
That's why when we got into the Sisterlocks endeavor, it truly was not about money. That is such a cliche to hear people say, well, it wasn't about the money. Well, you know what? It wasn't about the money.
It wasn't about the money.
It wasn't about
You were already a university professor. You were doing all right. I was doing all right. Celeste was doing all right. We knew we were going to do all right because we already were. We were already in our 40s when we started Sisterlocks.
That's right.
So, if you dragging your knuckles and you pass 40 years old, there ain't no hope for you, okay? Sisterlocks and nothing's going to help you. So we weren't that, but we weren't on a certain level. We weren't all that special either. We were a product of our time.
Yeah.
There's a saying that I'll make more of you. They didn't exactly mean it, but if you were cutting up and you're cutting up in front of somebody else's mother or father, you get it upside the head, and it wouldn't be your own parent doing it, and they were saving your life. Because when if your parents heard about it and you got home, you probably would get worse. So it's like, I know, it's a generational thing, but there's something to be said for kids growing up around other kids who look like themselves, and are not always saying, what are you? What are you? What are you? Because they're not used to seeing people who don't look like themselves. We got that in our education, but in our homes and in our neighborhoods, we didn't have to be concerned with things like that. So you kind of grow up with the feeling that You really do, you work hard, you pay attention in school, and if your life takes you to college, that's fine, but you don't have to go to college, because you're already somebody.
Yeah.
You don't have to try to get into college and,
To prove something.
yeah,
or-
apply to
Yeah.
30 colleges.
Kel, you
know.
really explained that in a way I've never had it explained like that, because I never felt special about my educational pursuits and accomplishments and all. I never felt special, but that was, I don't know if it sounds like a put down or like I was being put down, but just the opposite. It was like it was lift everybody up.
Right.
It's not
Everybody
appropriate for somebody to shoot out ahead and keep going. It's not appropriate.
Mhm.
It's like, why would you kill family like that? Why would you kill your community like that? And why would you kill the spirit among the people that you love just so you can get ahead? That was not part of our upbringing.
We would be happy for each other
Yeah.
when we found, oh, so-and-so bought a house. One of our friends' sister bought her own house, and she was still single and unmarried, and she bought a house. We were a few years out of high school, and she bought her own house, and I heard about it, and I thought, that's really cool. It's wonderful. And there was just this innate support of everyone.
And even now, on various social media outlets, people keep in touch with each other.
Yeah.
You got how many grandkids? Boy, I'm telling you, just everything. Well, where are you now? What are you retired? Okay, now what are you doing? Have you ever been back to the neighborhood? Who's still there? Who's not still there?
Right.
All of those things are important, and you follow each other all the way through.
And I still think that there is so much about Sisterlocks that supports that. I go on these Zoom calls and meetings that we have for our various classes and meetups and things, and I see the faces of these women, and often they're mostly young women. And I know that they don't identify with me because they don't know what they don't know. They weren't there. I've never had an opportunity I try to give them air hugs, but that only goes so far. They don't get to feel this thing going on. But I identify with them because I see myself. I see you. And, the things that they're going through and are going to have to go through and all of that. And it's probably, I don't know how you can communicate what, the passion that you feel and that you want to give to somebody else like a virus. I don't know how to make that happen with your computer screen and, they're in another state and, they've got these challenges and those challenges. But
That's something, though, that makes me nostalgic for the days when we would physically go to places and get the hugs, no more air hugs. And, like I'm in Buffalo, okay? And then there's someone there who's excited because she turned part of her basement into a salon. Something
nice.
she never would have done. So I get to go downstairs, check it out, make a couple of suggestions, but for the most part, these women were taking care of business. Whether it was something outside of their home, inside of the home, a corner for the babies, because they had clients who also had children, and they could bring them in, and it was amazing. I think about all the places we've been, and the beautiful women we've been able to spend time with, whether it was only 2 ladies in a class, or 22 ladies in a class. And it wasn't just me, all of our other instructors who had an opportunity to do that. So that helps these women to understand a little bit more when they see you for real.
yeah.
And they can touch you and pick your brain, and that's what I like too. I like doing that too.
The journey from in-person to online got really accelerated during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And while some things were lost, a lot was gained too. A lot was gained too. I mean, our training program is tighter. We really can, we're not actually in the same physical space, but we can use online platforms to respond to people, to respond to their needs, to pick up on what they need, and to deliver information and caring in a way that, it's not in person, but it's we can manage with this. We really can. And that's really what we've been doing over the past couple of years, and we still have a lot of work to do to make things accessible and access to information, and allow our trainers to interact with newbies in a way that makes them feel more secure. And we have a whole agenda of things that we're going to address over the next year or so. We've gotten a great start, but we intend to make the most out of internet opportunities as well.
So in your retirement, I'm being facetious, how are you supporting Sisterlocks, and what is the future of Sisterlocks? I know you kind of hinted on that. What are you working on now?
Right. Well, when you say retirement, you mean retirement from my university teaching. When I was a university professor doing Sisterlocks at the same time, I basically had 2 full-time jobs. Now I only have 1 full-time job, and that's Sisterlocks. And I'm supposed to be, I don't know that I ever claimed to be retired from Sisterlocks. Excuse me.
That's your enthusiasm.
As the business grows, duties get delegated, and we have an evaluator department now that Celeste manages, and we have a trainer department or division that someone else, Michelle, manages, and these are things that I don't have to do anymore. But what happens is that more work creeps in because I now have time to do more in terms of the building of the business. So it's not like an empty space is created, right? Though I have been able to get a little more sleep than I did, the first 40, 50 years of my life. So hopefully that will continue. Now, what sustains Sisterlocks is basically, our business growth and really being able to cultivate and take advantage of the demand for what we do. And part of that is keeping Sisterlocks, so that we're not just selling, whatever, and calling it whatever. So we do a lot of quality control and trying to instill in everybody else who learns our system what you need to do in order to really represent what this is. So, I don't have to come home and put all my salary, whatever's left over after the rent and food, into the business like I did for so many years. I was going through materials, because this is our 30th year, and I realized, number one, Sisterlocks was a home-based business for 17 years. We were not able to move into an external building until 2015, until 2015. And we started in 1993, so I believe I did the math correctly. But it's right around 17 years. And the other thing is, I wouldn't advise people to go about building a business from a financial standpoint the way that I did. Like you have to have a whole nother job in order to carry it. But because I did it that way, we don't owe anybody, we're not in debt, we own this building, right? And I realized at some point that we're going about what we used to call Black economic development in the way that our grandfather's generation did. I didn't do that on purpose. But when I look at I have this certificate at home. It was some burial society that was connected with the Masons that he was a Mason.
He was a Prince Hall Mason.
Yeah. And it said, everybody is going to put in 15 cents a month. And so that if someone died or when someone died, they would have a fund so that they could have a wonderful burial sending off. And this is what his generation did, because we're talking about someone who was born, when was grandfather born?
1887.
1887.
Yeah.
So people were technically free. Our people were technically free, but they were the no knitting people allowed signs everywhere. You couldn't assume that an insurance company would even sell you insurance, or that you could buy a house even if you had the money, because Black people weren't allowed. It was real at that time.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So our people had to stick together, whether they wanted to or not, and many of them wanted to, obviously. But the things that they came up with to support each other were wonderful, and they were offshoots of family thinking.
Right.
Community was an extension of family, quite naturally. You didn't have to tell young boys and girls that, you shouldn't shoot each other, and, you didn't have to remind them that these people are people and love you, and, that was like ingrained in the fabric, so that the institutions that they came up with were brilliant. So when we came up with a, we succeed because you succeed mentality, that's really what has driven all of the decisions of Sisterlocks. Is that I'm not going to do it if it's not helping our consultants and trainees succeed.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. I don't like working just for working. I like working, and I work like a freaking maniac. We all do. That's the way we were raised.
And we would all be just fine if Sisterlocks didn't exist or Sisterlocks
Yeah.
was never invented. So I guess we're taking a long way around to come back again to explain at length why. We don't know exactly why you happened to come up with the idea. You were not happy with the choices based on your hair type.
Yeah.
And that, that's a good way of understanding it. But how you actually came up with it, I don't know. Did I hit you in the head? I think I did.
Well, it really was kind of a revelation, kind of a, It was. But there was a lot that led up to it. It was like my kind of maniacal thinking. If I want to figure something out, I'm just not going to rest until it's figured out, even if it takes years, which it did. It took years. First of all, seeing someone's hair and just being struck by how beautiful it was. And it wasn't beautiful because they were trying to be something that they weren't. They weren't trying to straighten their hair. They weren't trying to get it super long. The things that we run after, at least I did as a young person, It wasn't anything like that. It was just having your hair, and like they weren't even shiny locks. But I had this one woman in mind I would see at these professional conferences I would go to every year. I was just struck by how beautiful she was, and it was her hair. And then the next year, her hair was longer and more beautiful. I don't think she wore makeup. She was just the embodiment of a stunning Black woman. And it wasn't because her features were pointed, or their skin was light, none of that, And I thought, I have to have this.
Sagittarius. Relentless.
I'm going to my hair. And it took me 2 years before from the time I was, okay, that's it, I'm doing it, to even trying anything. Because it was such an issue, and nappy hair, and school, are they going to like me?
I was going to say, that started when we were growing up with grandma's beauty shops, and we would spend time in the beauty salons because my mother would come by, and she was taking lessons in cosmetology, and she needed to work in the salon and get familiar with everything. And she had these 3 little knuckle-headed, fuzzy-headed,
with all kinds of nappy hair, just beautiful nappy hair.
Yeah. And that's where we spent a lot of our time in the summer. And I just remember being stretched out in the back, because nobody wants to see a little nappy kid back in those days.
Oh no.
And just hearing the humming of the fan and the clicking of the curling irons, and the when they would do the straightening comb, and that's pretty much.
And the conversation.
The conversations were, they were amazing, And we would be back there. We would, especially when we got our hair freshly done, because my grandmother, she was a beauty culturalist from the 1930s.
Yes.
And when she got on our heads, she would tell us, little girls need a hard press and curl. So we would always get a hard press and curl. So you get in the back, because that's where all the tables that were not being used were there, the booths. And man, I would comb that stuff out, and as soon as it gets to the end, it goes, right back. And of course we had the bangs from the 1950s. The bangs, boom, they would just pop right back. This young lady, for me, whatever. My hair was done, I was good. She didn't like it. There were things that it was like, I am not going to, I gotta get this is not, And we would be back there, I'd be watching the door, because if grandma came back in the back and caught us messing with our hair.
She'd pop you.
We would get popped.
Yes.
It wasn't even a thought, So.
You ever get popped with a brush?
By a professional.
Yes, by a woman who knows how to use one.
Yeah, that was hilarious. But we did kind of look out for each other, because we didn't want, anybody, grandma, coming through. So yeah, it was quite a life.
I do remember I did think I knew exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, you did.
And nobody else could do it right.
Not even grandma.
Not even grandma, no.
But you did when you went off to Lakeland College, though. You told me that you did. You're kind of the de facto hairdresser,
salon, right?
because there's like 3 black girls on the entire campus or something like that. You know, and you were the designated
Hair relaxer, hair straightener.
designated head hitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those days were very instrumental. In,
I never saw myself owning a hair care business. I never saw myself doing that.
we spent enough
Because it was
time.
something that Grandma did. We didn't want to do what Grandma did, you know.
But this thing took on its own life. I was in awe. It was like, it wasn't even me making this happen.
Yeah.
You know, it was me running to keep up with what this thing was becoming. Because it was going to become what it was destined to become.
Yes.
And if I didn't keep up, if I didn't learn what I needed to learn, go where I needed to go, you know,
You were the
read
tool.
whatever, then I was going to get left. I don't even know. It was like it couldn't not happen. So whatever it took, I had to do it. Just driven, you know. And I know that at least the first 10 years, I drove my loved ones crazy.
Oh,
I know.
I'm glad she said it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was just like, oh, then we gotta do this and then we gotta, and ask them if they were getting paid.
No.
Getting
When
what?
did Sisterlocks put you guys on the payroll?
Last year.
Well, literally last
year.
year for Celeste. And for me, it was, I don't know, it was maybe 5, 6 years later, something like that. I was still working my day job, but Sisterlocks was actually able to, and then Nara too, I think, was able to give us a little bit of money every couple of weeks, but
Yeah.
it wasn't anything.
Mine came strictly from my clients.
Right.
And I loved it
Yeah.
up until last year.
Trying to behave behind the camera. I've enjoyed myself just so much being in a room of greatness. And I can't come on camera because it will make me cry. I don't want people to see me cry. Because you said, you know, you don't know how you can share the passion and the love. And you do it by giving Sisterlocks away so freely. And yes, there is a entry to pay to take the class or to get a set of locks. But once we're willing to do that and you become a part of the Sisterlocks family, it's just like a whirlwind. And I've been a part of Sisterlocks for 17 years
Oh my gosh.
and I can't believe it. And
I didn't realize it was that long.
my trainer, Michelle Bryant, told
Yay,
me
we
yes,
love Michelle.
that you should always act like Dr. Cornwell is in the room with you. And today, she's in the room with me. Thank you, Doc.
Come here, I got one thing to tell you. Come here, you gotta come here. I lied, I just wanna hug you.
Yeah, we are huggers, by the way. Oh, man.
This is why we do this.
Yes, yes.
This woman right here.
You gotta get these hugs. Wish I had a tissue, but I don't. Give me some of that sugar.
Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you, ladies, for being here with me.
Because we usually don't get an opportunity to tell people how we feel and what we've gone through and what we hope to continue to go through.
And it's a good thing we weren't worried about the money then, because now we're like millionaires.
No, I
Yeah, that's why I'm sitting up here. Oh, that's why I'm sitting up here in my 2007
I know.
homemade shirt.
I did finally buy a brand new car cash last
2007.
year. I bought a brand new car cash last year.
She bragged
After
it in.
29 years, I had to let my
You had to-
2000 Saturn go.
That's right, that's
The
right.
math doesn't work.
But you kept it running
Yeah,
for 20-something years.
20-some years. So.
Years.